Alright, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Knight, what kind of question is this? Everybody know that the Adeptus Sororitas, aka the Sisters of Battle, are 100% wise to smash and have no cons. Fools! Don't y'all understand what kind of universe they live in? This is the Warhammer 40k universe. And to smash the cheeks, you must first get to the cheeks. If you can't get to the cheeks, then you cannot smash. 'Tis only logic, pure mathematics. And I know what you're thinking, viewer. You're thinking I can get those cheeks, no problem. And you know what, low key? I like your confidence, man. I like your confidence. However, you are still a fool. Let me put things into perspective for you. If you as a normal human being were to drop into the Warhammer 40k universe, you would be immediately doomed. Now, why is that? Let me explain. First con, the Warhammer 40k universe and the corruption. Let's talk about corruption first. In the Warhammer 40k universe, corruption refers to the insidious influence of the chaos gods. You know, these guys. Hold up. Yeah, I wouldn't trust that one, buddy. Was it really a dude or something? Well, I read that its nature transcends gender, so I would define it as a monster or evil god, and this is what could happen to you if you're corrupted by it. Now, the main source of corruption is the warp, a chaotic immaterial dimension that exists alongside the material universe. It is a realm of pure emotion and psychic energy, and of course the chaos gods. And this corruption can influence you mentally and physically. It can influence your mind and exploit desires, fears, and vulnerabilities to sow discord and discontent. Corruption can lead to madness, possession, even physical mutations, deformities, and you can even grow an extra limb or organs. And to make things worse, viewer, the average man in this universe are really easy to corrupt. And the only thing that's going to give you some immunity from this corruption is going to be absolute faith in the God Emperor. However, no one, and I mean no one except for probably a few, are completely immune to this corruption. And yes, Space Marines have been corrupted, along with a few Sisters of Battle. So again, if I were to put a normal human survivability in this universe into perspective, you would stand no chance. A lot of people have no discipline, no self-control, and you especially don't got no faith. You would be cooked before you even realize what happened. Moving on, if you somehow get past corruption, heretics, psychers, and mutants in this universe, you may have to then deal with xenos, which is basically all races that aren't humans in this universe, like the Eldar, which are like space elves, the orcs, the Necrons. Oh yeah, and then there's the Tyranids. Yeah, theoretically speaking, if you was on a planet that the Tyranids were coming towards, and there were no Space Marines on that planet, hell, even if there were Space Marines on that planet, you would be cooked. These things are just as bad or worse than the xenomorph aliens. Now, you may be thinking that if you was in this universe, you wouldn't come across things like corruption or these Tyranids, but you would be wrong. In the Warhammer 40k universe, this galaxy is filled with endless war, and humanity itself is fighting for survival against countless threats. Yeah! Don't you listen to that guy, viewer. He's a coward, a fool, and you, my good sir, are Chad. And I swear to you that we can get those cheeks. Now how? I'll tell you how. First things first. As soon as you arrive on this planet, you eat, sleep, and the God Emperor. Everything and anything is for the God Emperor, and anything other than that is heresy. To resist that corruption, you gotta build your faith up. And then you must get strong, then get swole. And I suggest either becoming a Space Marine, or better yet, becoming a High Lord. A High Lord whose words are only second to the God Emperor himself. And it is then, and only then, will we be able to get those cheeks. They'll die doing it that way. Well, Goj Vandar, the 361st Master of the Ministratum, did it. And he also got his head cut off by Dominica. Do not skip parts of the story. You'll confuse the viewers. Now, like I was saying, if you were lucky enough to get past all the corruption and all the wars and all the xenos, could you, the average Joe, still get the cheeks? For me to figure this out, I had to dive deep into the lore of the Adeptus Sororitas, and this is what I found. Alright, in the lore of the Adeptus Sororitas, before they were called the Sisters of Battle, they were called the Daughters of the Emperor. And in the 36th millennium, on a backwater planet called San Lier, they were found by the Imperium's ecclesiarchy. Also, before they were even found, they were already dedicated to the worship of the God Emperor, and they even had trained themselves in the ancient arts of war as an expression of their devotion. And the Imperium took interest in this all-female cult due to their religious zeal and their, how shall I say this, dead body, baby. Yeah! Hey, shut up, I'm cooking here. You cook too slow. I cook faster when you shut the fuck up. Now what was I? Oh yes, in particular, Goj Vandar, the masturbator of the Ministratum, took a special interest in those cheeks. And due to trickery, Vandar was able to make the Daughters of the Emperor into his bodyguards. renaming them the brides of the Emperor. They became fiercely loyal to him, and he armed them with powerful weaponry and trained them extensively. They were his constant guards and his silent executioners, and they not only served Vandire as his bodyguards, but also his servants and his companions. Hoo-hoo, giggity. Now they tasted the High Lord's food and even fed him when he fell weak with illness, and nursed his frail body back to health. And the other things they did for Vandire included singing, dancing, and other more exotic skills. Now viewer, it is implied that here they did sleep with Vandire. Now whether they really did or didn't is really kind of wishy-washy, but some of them likely did because they are simps for the God Emperor, and Vandire is connected to the God Emperor at this time. And also, and this is a pro, they are not forbidden from having relationships or engaging in sexual activity. But this may also depend on the faction that they're in. Now there are some that believe that the Sisters of Baal take a vow of celibacy. Now I didn't read that anywhere, and trust me, I looked, but I didn't find it. So more or less they can get freaky. Either way, Vandire during this time was described as being evil. Apparently only so much gooning is allowed in the Imperium, and Vandire was using the daughters for his personal pleasures. Huh, giggity. Anyway, this ended when Dominica, the leader of the daughters at the time, was taken to the throne room of the Emperor. Now no one knows what happened in that throne room, but when she came out of the throne room, she marched into Vandire's chambers, condemned him for his crimes, and cut off his head. So yeah, I think it's safe to say that going down Vandire's route is not the brightest idea. I'm not sure all the God Emperor's powers, but it would seem he let Dominica know what was going on. And from this day forward, the daughters were renamed the Adeptus Sororitas, aka the Sisters of Baal. Now, the next biggest con is the God Emperor himself, or more or less their faith. Their main overall focus is the God Emperor. And I mean, obviously you can tell from the story I just told you that they are complete simps for this man. And if you're not on the side of the God Emperor, well then, they're gonna kill you. Oh, and did I mention that these guys are racist? Racist? What? Yep. Towards who? Well, really anything that's not considered human. You know, like aliens. Ha! Sucks for them. But not us perfect cats, right? The Emperor loves cats? Well, I won't get into the Warhammer cat girls in this video, but technically, they don't mind cats. Or more or less, they at least won't kill them all immediately. Yeah! Anyway, besides their faith in their racism, there's also an issue with time for them. They don't really have any time for relationships or kids for that matter. However, I did read that this only included the ones that were in combat and not the ones in quieter corners of the ecclesiarchy. For example, a hospitaller, which are the healers of the Adeptus Sororitas, they may have more time for a relationship because they are in a non-militant order, and their main focus seems to be on healing and medical care for all citizens of the Imperium. So they may have more time than the ones in combat roles, but how much more time? Don't know. I've read that they operate in hospitals and clinics across the Imperium. Yo, I just realized something. This is why they say all nurses are freaks. Hell yeah. Bruh, this may be the answer right here. If you want to get laid by a Sister of Baal, you just gotta go for the hospitaller. And ask for that sweet comfort. All tongue, no needle. Anyway, the next con is dealing with the children you could have if she gets pregnant. Now again, the ones in combat really don't got time for no kids, and their main focus is supposed to be on the Emperor anyway. And if they have a relationship with you and the kid, that focus goes out the window. And number one, if a Sister of Baal violates their faith, they could be made into a Sister Repenter to atone for their sins, or in other words, to die. And number two, if she gets pregnant, that kid may not be raised by her or you. There's a place in this world called the Scala Progenium, and it's described as a harsh training system for the orphaned and surrendered children. Now the child's fate will depend on certain factors like their gender, whether they have psychic abilities, and etc. More or less, your child may be in for a lot of suffering. But now I did read something that said the child could also be raised in the Sisters Order, especially if it's a non-militant order with less strict requirements. So if you sleep with someone like a hospitaller and she has a kid, and her order has less strict requirements, the kid may be able to be raised in that order. But this is rare, and more than likely what I said before would happen. Now, with that being said, let's talk about some of the famous ones in the Sisters of Baal. I want to talk about the sexy white-haired one. He means Alicia Dominica, also known as the patron saint of the sisterhood. Fun fact, her hair actually turned white after she encountered the Emperor, and I read that this event was honored by the Order of Our Martyred Lady, and the other members of this group apparently dyed their hair white in tribute of this event. She's also called the bearer of the Grail of Ages and the founder of the Order of the Ebon Chalice. And she's revered throughout the Imperium of Man as both the founder and the patron Imperium saint of the Adeptus Sororitas. And just in case I didn't make this clear, yes, she is the one who beheaded Goj Vandire. And by doing this, she ended what was called the Reign of Blood. Now the powers of these ladies are a little bit, I would say weird. I read they wear power armor, obviously, but their power armor isn't as strong as a Space Marine's power armor. I heard their armor is actually equal to that of an Inquisitor's, and they use all sorts of different weapons, same as Space Marines. Now, what did stand out to me was the abilities they get from their faith, or more or less the God Emperor himself. I've read that their unwavering faith allows them to perform what's called acts of faith, or more or less miracles. These acts of faith can change the tides of battle, enhance their physical prowess, and even push them beyond normal human limits. The Sisters of Battle, including Dominica, exhibit superhuman strength, agility, and durability. And I read in her last battle before she died.
No! Why?
Do you have to be so dramatic? Why all the good ones got to die, Knight? They're soldiers. Soldiers die. That doesn't make me feel any better! Well, maybe this will. In her last battle, she survived literally hundreds of blows throughout the battle. She was only eventually killed by a single laser blast that penetrated a weakened point in her armor and pierced her heart. Well, why didn't the God Emperor resurrect her like he did Saint Celestine? Voice, I don't know if you noticed this, but the God Emperor and their Imperium itself aren't exactly the best of people. I'm sorry, what? You heard me, they're not good. Damn it, no more bullets. Anyway, since Knight's dead, I'll talk about the next one. Yay! Next one, Saint Celestine, a sister of battle that can only truly be described as a pure angel. Yeah, I'd hit that. Saint Celestine is a revered living saint of the Adeptus Sororitas, Order of our Martyred Lady. She's known as a being of incredible psychic power and faith, and she's believed by many in the Imperium of Man to have been resurrected from death many times as a tool of the Emperor of Mankind himself. So yeah, unlike other Adeptus Sororitas, she's been resurrected multiple times. And also, fun fact, her wings are a psychic manifestation that can apparently be used for flight. And I even read when she comes back to life, it's like that of a phoenix. And with just a gesture, the living saint can call down fires of psychic retribution down from on high. And she can infuse her sick or injured allies with healing energies. And she's clad in a suit of shining golden Sororitas power armor. Now, I don't know what that power armor does, but it's gold. So the God Emperor must have hooked her up with that good shit. And there's more! She wields an ardent blade, a weapon capable of unleashing flames. Plus, she radiates holy aura, literally Sun Jin Woo having ass type shit, and inspires awe and devotion in the faithful while striking fear in the unfaithful. I think it's safe to say that girl is in a league all by herself. I didn't read about any other Sisters of Battle, so tell me, viewers, if you know about any more that you would like to hear about. And by the way, just in case you're confused, yes, the Sisters of Battle are wise to smash, and if you're afraid of a little bit of corruption or aliens, then you don't deserve those holy cheeks. Those cheeks for the strong anyway. The strong and the fearless. Anyway, you guys have a great day and leave your opinions in the comments. Bye!
It's